Hey, what's up, everybody? BDO44 coming at you another video, fresh out of bed. I haven't even gotten up out of bed, still wiping my eyes and all that, man. Uh, LeBron James signed a 2-year, $104 million contract with the Lakers. I believe there's a no trade clause at the end of it, and a player option. Nope, I don't believe he was able to effectively take a pay cut on this one. All the different stuff that we were lining up the money to do couldn't necessarily be done, so there's no sense in him taking a pay cut. The commitment ain't too long. I don't like no trade clauses because I think they hurt your ability to make moves um, in the market. But when it comes to LeBron James, nobody actually thinks you're going to move him anyway, so it's almost like he has a no trade clause regardless. It's like a de facto no trade clause. No one's even going to ask you for LeBron James, and they know you're not going to move him. Thing about it is, it's a player option. So guess what? We get to do this again next summer. He get to opt right out of that thing, and we're right back to square one. But at least if he does that, we can tank that year because we have our pick for 2026. Unless something strange happens. I think we can't trade 2 picks consecutively or something like that since we've already traded 2025. I do not believe the Lakers are in a position to trade 2026. So at least we have that. If everything goes wrong, we can at least tank for 1 year and hopefully get a good pick, but it's not going to be the equivalent to a rebuild. You still got Anthony Davis, so when you're trading Anthony Davis at the end of that process, you just got to start planning for all of those types of scenarios right now. If you're Rob Pelinka, you got to have a plan for all of that. So I thought it would be a 3-year deal. I thought he'd probably want to stick around for a little longer, but given the fact he's this age, and we talked about this yesterday, um, he could retire at any minute, and I should not be surprised that he left his options open to be able to retire next year. He gets a chance to play with his son this year. I don't know what else there's left to do. As I've already said in a million different ways, the Lakers, in my opinion, don't have enough to build enough. It takes a lot to build a lot, and we're going to need a lot to compete with the league. So that's the reality of it. I don't think that the Lakers are in a horrible position with him taking the max because at the end of the day, it's only a 2-year deal, and we couldn't get anything done for the pay cut. The pay cut that we wanted him to take, we couldn't make any of the moves that he left on the table for us to do. Guys, we're not going to leave money on the table to play with a Laker team that has all this going on with it, and I think that's what it really comes down to. I just don't think we're the most attractive free agent market right now. Um, I don't I don't find myself comfortable saying that because at the end of the day, we just signed LeBron James, who was most definitely the best person on the market this year. So, that's when you're re-signing somebody, you don't think of it that way. But I'm telling you, the market was not very good. James Harden, Klay Thompson, DeMar DeRozan at the top of that. Paul George. Paul George is the most attractive piece, and I'd rather have LeBron James if I'm choosing between the two of them. So we actually won free agency when you look at it that way. But at the end of the day, we didn't add anything new, and I think a lot of people aren't happy about that. Me personally, y'all know I'm not. I'm not happy that we didn't make any moves yet. There's still some small things around the margins to do. Maybe make a trade for like a $2 million center. But as I look at my roster, that's really all that must be done, especially since D'Angelo opted in. Now, I know a lot of people are saying, I don't want D'Angelo to be a point guard. I would prefer him not be my point guard too. But I think that would probably make a more lucrative or favorable trade once the season starts. I really believe that. I think you're likely to get a better in-season trade than you are right now. And since free agency dried up, which was a bunch of stuff that was dry, I didn't want any of it. I'm not upset that we didn't make any moves. When you look at how many players you have on roster, it's not like you're lacking in talent as it pertains to, do you have enough people on the team to run around? Yeah, we're not in Philly's situation where they needed to sign people where they weren't going to have a basketball team. So the idea that you need to make moves every summer, it's overstated, man. There's balance to that. Sometimes it makes sense to make changes to your roster. Other times, the market ain't no good, and you probably shouldn't be spending your money. And I just don't think Laker fans are having that conversation. How much of this stuff did we actually need? Like, how many changes did you really need to make this summer in order for your basketball team to be as good as you could build it to be? Can you detract from your value by making certain moves? Could you sign certain people and regret it because they signed on a big deal with too much money and now you can't afford to put players next to them because they're eating up too much of your cap? Yes, all of that is possible. Sign a guy that's too old for too long, now you stuck with him and you can't trade him? Yeah, all of that's possible. If you want to make moves, you could definitely make yourself worse by doing stuff like that. And so I am totally on the opposite end of what the normal consensus thought is about how this market should have been played by the LA Lakers. I didn't want us to really sign any of these people unless we could have gotten them at a discount. And I don't believe that you could have. I appreciated the thought that LeBron James was going to leave some money on the table for Klay Thompson, but I was settling for Klay Thompson. And once it was true that he were offering him a 4-year deal, hell no, I don't want to sign him no 4-year deal. Not the Klay that I saw last year. No, that's not somebody that's going to be giving me high-level basketball for 4 years. No, I would rather him sign kind of what LeBron just signed, 1-1. Like, let's see if this works out for a year. I don't want to be stuck to that dude if he's going to be washed. And the last couple of years we've been seeing Klay. Klay has been a washed version of himself. People can get upset at that. Look, man, it is what it is. Guys get old, guys get hurt, man. It is what it is. You know, Paul George, I think he still got some game left, but for that contract that the Philadelphia 76ers signed him to, I think he's more of a name than he is production at this point. I really do. I like him, but I don't know if I'm going to like him 2 summers from now while he's still on a contract for $1 million different. It's for so much cap. I don't think that contract's very good. You know what I mean? DeMar DeRozan, if he wants to take the mid-level, he's an older guy. You know what I mean? He's an older guy. So if you're willing to take that MLE at 1-1 or something like that, that's cool. 3-year deal, now we're pushing it. Giving up assets of young players, now we're pushing it. Giving up an expiring contract of D'Angelo Russell. You know what I can get for an expiring D'Angelo Russell? During the season after he has a 40-point game or a 30-point game or a 7-3 game, a hell of a lot more than I can get for him right now. So, like, I'm not saying the Lakers don't need to make some changes to the roster. I'm just saying the importance of it being done in the offseason isn't what people think at all. It isn't what is being presented to you by the media. It's not. You don't have to do anything right now. You have 15 players to run next year. Are you good enough to win a championship? Not right now. Are you going to be good enough to win a championship? Not if you're making any moves you're talking about. Jonas Valanciunas on a 3-year, $10 million deal at 35 years old. No, that's not going to get you a championship at all. You know what I'm saying? DeMar DeRozan, a weird fit. I don't think you're a championship team. And so man, what you want Rob to do? I personally see a different path to some of these options that isn't good. I think my team is good enough to start the season, raise the value on some of the stuff that isn't worth as much right now, like Gabe Vincent, Jalen Hood-Schifino, get them on the ball court and let them have some good games. Let people see what they look like now, and the chances of them raising their value isn't bad. It isn't bad. Because their value isn't very high right now based on how they were utilized last year by a bad coach. And the notion that they're going to be utilized differently by a very great-minded basketball coach who, although we haven't seen him coach before, we know his basketball mind is strong, so he's going to have guys out there running more intricate offensive plays that's going to showcase their talent a bit more. In theory. Of course, everything's in theory. So, no, I'm not mad at the Lakers for not making any moves. I'd have been mad at them for doing some of that. Some of that stuff should have been done. And people just want to see things done. That's it. And I know better. Some of that crap is going to linger. It's going to linger like a bad taste in your mouth. You ain't going to want none of that later on. You're going to be mad. See, when you watch as many summers of this as closely as I have, you know that sometimes teams that make moves at the buzzer, the start of the free agency, or to capitulate to fans saying they're making moves. What they're really doing is locking themselves up for stuff they shouldn't be wanting to lock themselves up for. Things that they're going to want to undo later. Things that they're misevaluating. Players they think can do something and they're going to get them there and find out they can't do it. Guys they saw do something last year, so they think they're going to be able to do it this year when guy's about to fall off a cliff because he's in his mid-30s. These are the type of moves that I do not want to see the Lakers make because, for one, they don't really pan out, and for two, we really can't afford to do it. Or you trading away 2 picks and for some guy that's going to ultimately look at Jakob Poeltl in Toronto. They traded away 2 first-round picks for Jakob Poeltl. That team ain't been no good. He ain't been, you know what I mean? He's been lost in Toronto. There were people who were really excited about bringing in Jakob Poeltl. They had a 20-plus overall pick this year. What was it? 21, 22? And they tanked. And that was the best pick they could get because they had already mortgaged their pick to somebody else. The San Antonio Spurs number 8 pick that turned out to be Rob Dillingham, if I'm not mistaken, that pick is Toronto's pick. They mortgaged it for Jakob Poeltl. That's why San Antonio had 2 of them. So you want to make a move like that, ladies and gentlemen? Because you want to fill your center position? I'm sure there's somebody who's willing to take your 2 picks for something they got. And then when the summertime comes around and the draft goes on, you're going to watch your version of Rob Dillingham go to somewhere else. You just wanted to make a move. Look at the Paul George trade. When they ultimately signed Paul George to the Clippers, after trading away like 7 picks to 8 picks, however it was, to OKC. Paul George is now a Philadelphia 76er, and they still have picks going to OKC that have yet to be drafted. Still. That's going to stretch them well into 27. Do you want to make moves like that? You know what I'm saying? Just to see Rob Pelinka make a move. I really think it's a misguided thought that a good portion of our fan base is on right now. And I'm just like, man, y'all the type that think you're building something that's going to help your team, but in reality, you're making yourself worse. And just ain't aware of it. And when you come to realize it, you're going to be mad at the same people who made those moves that you demanded make moves. You're going to be mad at them. You're like, man, fire Rob Pelinka. I can't believe he made that stupid trade. There were no other trades on the board, and you wanted him to do it. Any damn thing, just to look as if he's moving. Sometimes the best way to use the market is to assess if what it is that's in that market is worth buying. And if you could afford to walk out of there without buying anything, then probably is your best interest to walk out of there with your money in your hand, man. It ain't always in the best interest to make moves. Some moves shouldn't be made. Some things only make you marginally better for a particular year and then linger for years and years and years. Those are the type of moves that are available for the Lakers to make right now. And we've already made those, which is why we have so little to trade right now. You want to continue down that path? That's exactly what your reality is going to be. You're going to bring a guy here that's going to deteriorate. He's playing on his last leg of his prime. You trading away future assets for him. He going to come here as a nice starter, leave out of here as a bench role player, and you would have gave away future picks that probably last past his tenure in order to receive him. That is not smart. That's going to hurt you. Why you still think, I don't know why people think basketball players are immortal. Like, that's the problem. A lot of y'all in the Lakers nation, I find that we are probably one of the worst at this. Because we had a guy on our team, we don't think he's ever going to age, ever. Bring me Boogie Cousins. Bring me Dwight Howard. I saw a guy in one of the comment sections say he wanted us to bring back Jordan Hill. Jordan Hill ain't played basketball in like 7 years. Like, just because you've heard of him does not mean that he doesn't age ever. I don't understand how people live their lives thinking basketball players should still be playing basketball well after they reach 40 just because they played for your team and you saw them win.
It's the same thing I said about Trevor Ariza when we brought him in last time. Like, what do you expect Trevor to be? Trevor was in his late 30s, and we were asking him to be a regular role player. I'm like, fam, Trevor's tired, man. He's been running around on 82 game schedules for the last 15 years. How much do you think he has in the tank? You know, with Dwight, it's a little different because at least he's been active playing in Taiwan. So I could argue last year we should bring him in, but how many more years do you think he should be asked for in the future? Man's older than me. Actually, I don't think he is. He might be a year or two younger than me. But the point is, I'm reaching almost 40 this year. I'll be 40 next month. So it's like, if a guy's my age and he's not LeBron James, I don't think investing in him makes a lot of basketball sense. He's probably not going to be able to do a whole lot. And just because he was on my team and I remember he played well does not mean we need to keep him. That was my problem with keeping the championship bubble team. Most of those guys were old when we got them. We were able to luck into a championship because we had just enough role players who were still active, your Carusos, your Kuzmas, your KCPs, to be able to drown out some of them dudes on the back of that bench that probably, if we're given bigger roles, you wouldn't have gotten very far. And everybody wanted us to bring back that team. I'm like, half the team is older, y'all. We can't even, they're not going to be able to even play another season. And so to not identify when a guy has gotten too old is a cardinal sin in the NBA, and if you do the wrong thing, it's going to yield you the wrong results, especially if you're giving away young players to get them and giving away picks that haven't been realized yet, guys that are like 14 and 15 years old right now in the AAU tournament to get them. You don't know what you're going to get. And mortgaging your picks, I think people think it's a safe thing to lift protections on their picks. I've been listening to DTLF say, let's lift the protection on the pick for Utah, for Walker Kessler or something. You lift that protection, you're going to regret it in a lot of cases. Now, in some cases, it's a good bet because if you have a really good season, the likelihood of you having that protection be realized may not necessarily be. And if that's how the cookie crumbles, then you're probably happy you lifted that protection. Maybe you lean on the side of optimism. But you lift protections on those picks and you have a bad season, you don't have to have a horrible season. Look at Atlanta. They were a play-in tournament team just like we were just now. And their pick turned into the first overall pick because of how the lottery shakes up. This is not NFL. You got a chance of having the first overall pick and you could have a pretty solid year. Make the play-in tournament, that's all it takes. You make this play-in tournament, get bounced in that play-in tournament, suddenly you're in the lottery. And in the Western Conference, where basically you're going to have 12 teams all fighting for the first seed, you could have a really solid team roll an ankle in the final 12 games and fall all the way out of the playoffs into the play-in tournament and out. You didn't have a bad season. You just had bad luck. Now you done lifted the protection on the pick that you just mortgaged last year. And suddenly the Utah Jazz got a top 3 pick. Now, if you keep that protection on there, if the pick is top 3, guess who it goes to? You. You want to trade that away to complete your team? Are you sure? Are you sure, fam? Because I'm telling you, there ain't nothing more deflating than watching a great future prospect land in a team that you made a trade to, thinking that you were building yourself into a champion when actually you were just about to have a season where your best player was going to get hurt in the last 12 games. And now that protection is really important because it protects you from giving them a prospect that you need. I'm not lifting no protections. It's a protection. It protects me from the inevitable chance, not inevitable, but from the opportunity of things going catastrophically wrong and me not having anything to show for it. I can't lift that. Not just to bring in some guy. No. That's a horrible decision. And like I said, you can spin the wheel and it may work out. You spin the wheel, bring in the player that you're trying to bring. Maybe you build yourself to a champion. You go off to have this player for several years and they go up in the rafters. And maybe you don't find yourself in the lottery at all. You betting on yourself not being in the lottery, that's cool. If it works out, the protection was never necessary. This conversation was never necessary. There's going to be some times where that is how the cookie crumbles. But them times where it don't, you're gonna wish you had those protections on them picks. So you're not giving a Utah Jazz or whoever you mortgage a pick to the first overall or the second overall pick. Those protections protect you from that reality, from that deflating reality when you realize you got the winning lottery ticket, but have mortgaged it away for Jakob Poeltl. Nah, fam, don't lift no protections, don't trade no picks. Nothing's worth it in that way to us because we don't have a whole lot of picks and we need assets that are going to put us in a position to be able to start our rebuild and or retool around Anthony Davis. If we continue to mortgage picks for the certain moment that we're in, we're basically going to lose Anthony Davis outright. Like I said, the market's going to force us into a unnatural rebuild. That's what happens when you mortgage your picks. Whether people see it that way or not, that's exactly what happens. You end up not having enough to build around the players that you're trying to hold on to. The picks are what enables you to make trades as well, and that's what I think it's almost turning into a rule where if you don't have picks, you can't make trades. The Chicago Bulls were willing to settle for a tainted name of Josh Giddey to move Alex Caruso. So the OKC Thunder just lucked out because they found a patsy. Anybody else would have made them give up some type of pick equity. Rarely are you going to see trades made in this apron era that don't involve picks. Rarely. So if you give away your picks, you ain't going to be able to make trades. That's what I'm starting to really understand. And so if it takes picks to make trades and I only have 3 picks, I'm not using any of my picks now to complete this team, putting myself in a position to not be able to make any trades just because I want to make trades. There are going to be times when you're going to need to make trades. And if you only have 3 picks, you give them all away in a time where you don't need to, but just want to, then when you do need to, you won't have to trade. No pun intended. Since we want to mortgage off 2 picks right now. So that's why you don't do that when you have 3 picks. Now, like I said in another video, if you're OKC, you got 12 of them. Or you New York and you like 1 piece away from maybe building your complete dream, maybe you can afford that because you took picks from other teams that mortgaged it, so it makes more sense for you. You don't have LeBron James and Anthony Davis. You got to turn that into basketball players. But we got picks. They're in the form of the basketball players that we're building around. You trade them, you get your picks. You hold on to them, that's where your picks are. So it's like we can't afford to mortgage too much because we don't have it realized. It's not liquid. You know what I mean? As they say, when something's liquidated into cash, it's not liquid. We have it in the form of property. You know what I'm saying? Your money's wrapped up in bonds and stocks. LeBron and AG. You see what I'm saying? It's not liquid. You don't have it in cash to be able to just hand it over. You got to turn it into cash in order. So that's how the NBA appears to work, man. It's the same type of aligned logic with is finances. You got your players and your money is wrapped up. Your money is wrapped up in those players that are on the floor. LeBron and AD is all your equity. You know what I'm saying? That's where it's all at. You mortgage half of it for AD. That's where all your picks are. So it's not that we don't have it. It's just that we don't have it realized. And anything that's you running around on, just like a car, drive it off the lot, it loses value. So you're not going to be able to get the same thing for most of these guys that you pay for unless you're bringing in prospects that are going to get better, which is why I suggested a Darius Garland type thing. If you're going to make a trade that involves picks, bring back somebody who's likely going to be worth more when they come here, not less. You know what I'm saying? So that's not an option in this market. I didn't see anything there that we could do that for. Why? As I've already said as well, because most of the stuff that's worth having, people have on multiple year contracts. That is going to require picks to get from them. So, bad market. That's all it is. It's not a good market to buy in. And if you're just one of those fans that just have to see moves being made and you don't understand this thing fully, and you're about to ask your team to do something that you're going to regret. I know better. I've already learned that lesson. I see clearly. I know better than to when I only have 3 or something, give 2 away. When I don't necessarily need to do so. I don't necessarily have to do that. Some of y'all may think you do because of the timeline of LeBron James. But I always ask you, sometimes you could do things thinking you're helping yourself and you're hurting yourself in regards to that particular thought. And so you got to know what it looks like to help yourself. You got to have an aligned idea with the reality of what it ultimately becomes, or you get blindsided by a mistake. You think it's a good idea to bring yourself Russell Westbrook because Russell Westbrook's averaging a triple-double in Washington. You trade away what it would take to get a player who's being that productive, and all of a sudden you get him here and he ain't doing none of that for you. And you're out of everything that you traded him for. You thought you were making a good decision for LeBron's timeline. What did it actually look like when you got it here? A very bad decision, right? You got to have an alignment with what your imagination is, with what reality is going to be. Some of the stuff we think we're doing to help LeBron James is the same type of thing, just in a different way. You may think you're helping him. The best way to help him with his timeline is to not decrease value on anything next to him. So that if for some reason something happens, you have the ability to make a move to get better. The Andrew Bynum injury, remember that? Andrew got hurt. Suddenly we were a contender without a center in an era where centers were necessary. It was doom and gloom. We were kicking tail. We were having a fantastic season. We were well on our way to being able to play for a championship that year, and then Bynum just went down. Season-ending knee injury, bottomed out our entire roster. Kobe's in his prime. Everything's looking great. What were we able to do? Make a trade for Pau Gasol. Rest in peace to Jerry West, who helped facilitate that over in Grizzly Land. If we didn't have the assets to make the trade, our season's lost. But because we had Kwame Brown, I don't know how we got it done. Like I said, Jerry West. His brother, Marc Gasol at the time, who was a prospect. We didn't know him to be Mark, we know him to be today. And whatever else we used, Javaris Crittenton, I don't remember who all we used in that trade, in that situation. But the point was, we were able to make a needed trade to preserve Kobe's opportunity at a championship. That's what you want, enough ammo to make moves when you absolutely need to. If Bynum doesn't go down, we probably never get Powell, because it's never a necessity that we fill the roster spot in that way to keep ourselves above the fray. But make no mistake about it, we were in a position because we had it, and we were able to do what we needed to keep his season going because it was there. So if you're doing all types of stuff right now that's going to throw away all the stuff that puts you in a position to do something like that, then what are you really doing for LeBron's timeline? If AD goes down and you need to make a trade to bring somebody in, those 3 picks going to help you do that. You save your season. If you would have gave all that stuff away for some random role player or something like that, or to make a move that you can't make a reactionary move that saves your season in the event that you need to. That's what the 3 picks are. You can use them right now when you want to, or you can save them for when you need to. That seems like a better bet for a timeline that's win now, because anything can happen. AD could go down, and then we'll have them 3 picks to try to make a move that can bring us somebody who can do the job, so that LeBron James ain't running around by himself in a year where we can't afford that in this timeline. See how that works? So, like, I've learned these lessons. I've been watching this for so long, bro. I done learned all these damn lessons. I know better than to just make moves. And the market's bad. Don't make nothing. You make do. And you hold on to what you have that can make it so that you can make a purchase when the market looks better. And so, nah, man, Rob Pelinka ain't doing a bad job. Some of this stuff that people want him to do, if he does, is going to be a bad job. But a lot of this stuff that people saying should be done, should not. It just should not, man. And you're not doing a disservice to LeBron James if you don't do any of these bad moves. You're not. Because you still gonna have what's necessary to make the moves that will need to be made in the event something happens. Protecting yourself. That's what the name of the game is. Especially when your job is on the line. You protect yourself, you protect your assets. You leave a little bit so that when you need, you'll have a lot. Or enough, rather. And so that's really what it is, man. You save your money so you can have it on a rainy day, man. People want us to break our piggy banks just to make them feel better. I ain't doing that. Because what you think is going to make you feel better is in the long run going to make you sick. And I got to know better. Because I'm responsible for keeping you well. So that's what it is for that Rob Pelinka. He's going to have to get that part under control. You can't capitulate to the public opinion because the public don't know nothing about what your job is in building this basketball franchise. They don't know. All they know is what they want. And it looks a certain way, just like economics, but it's actually flipped on its axis just like economics. You know what I mean? Anybody who understands economics knows that it's inverted. Some of the stuff that makes the most sense makes no sense at all in other aspects of life. And so if they don't understand that context, then they're going to be asking for the wrong stuff that's going to make them broke. They're going to be doing stuff that's going to have them surplus or without anything or some imbalanced version of that. And it's just not, it's not what it seems. I think in a perfect world, a guy like Rob Pelinka would be able to communicate some of these realities to the fan base so they can get off his backside about stuff that they shouldn't even want. That's a better environment from which to operate. As long as the peanut gallery media is up here telling you doing bad because you ain't spent $70 million on freaking James Harden, then you're always going to have this idea that the GM's not doing the right thing for not doing that. Reality is, 2 years from now, you're going to hate having that contract. 2 years from now, you're going to wish you had done some other moves that didn't involve throwing money away. And when you don't win a championship, or when that player comes and is not who you thought he was, then you're the one sitting there looking stupid while they making a whole nother article about how you stupid for making the moves that they were pressuring you to make in the first place. Don't be stupid. BDL 44. I thank you all for watching. I'm out.